Mr. Chairman, we think that the government is something that did not present what is the context and what are the problems in this debate. Mr. Chairman, our goals in this debate from your opposition is that to value the power of the people as a contributor to the society. And Mr. Chairman, our policy in this debate is simple. We will maintain the status quo because we see status quo is working and still effective, Mr. Chairman. Now let's differentiate or compare presidential legislation and the parliamentary. Because in presidential legislation, even it is actually firm in making laws. Why is it? Because there is a due process which is even though it's long but it's still careful because it will undergo different houses, which are the Senate and the Congress, Mr. Chair. And Mr. Chairman, while in the parliamentary, I think it is actually, we consider the idea that it is swift, easy and fast. But let me rebut that later, because when it comes to voting, Mr. Chairman, presidential is something that values the power of the people because it is something that is democratic. While it's parliamentary, we think that it is actually autocratic because it only the people has no dialogue for them to, or the narrative to give their own say. Because while also in parliamentary, it is actually at any point in time, the Prime Minister can step down just because of the flow. But the problem is that the change is something that is lost. Because while in the presidential or presidency form of the government, we value the change because there are fixed terms to prove his worth. Before I proceed to my two levels of argument, let me first rebut what your Prime Minister said, that the advantage of Parliament is that it's faster, swift, and whatsoever, Mr. Chairman. But, Mr. Chairman, we consider the idea it's faster and swift. But even if it's fast, but the fact that it's not firm, or even it have flaws, Mr. Chairman, so meaning, even if it's actually fast, there are still the tendency for them to, for these laws, for example, to be problematic. We weigh, Mr. Chairman, even we weigh the law process, that we weigh is the law process of the president, which is firm and actually circumspect of the law, or the fast that is actually problematic, that will lead to the slow process, Mr. Chairman. Because in the parliamentary, Mr. Chairman, there are actually gridlocks can also exist. Let me present my two arguments on how effective is presidential or democracy. Because right now, if we look at democratic countries nowadays are very progressive. Even the most powerful country in the world have this form of government, which is the presidential, and that's the USA. Why is it effective? Because the dialogue of the people, or the narrative of the people, is respective, and actually the government will serve them. And because the power of people is giving, and it is actually a contributor and will interact to the society. Second argument is that what's the value of not changing the form of government? Because the problem is, if we're not going to change the form of the government, there is an incentive for the Philippines to prove its worth, or to do better and do more. While it's like you suddenly shift the government. It's like you're telling people or other nation that your nation is something that is weak, Mr. Chairman. Because I think I would ask to the government, the Prime Minister, that how would they change for the presidential to parliamentary? Because Philippines will have a difficulty to adjust or resort on sudden shift, Mr. Chairman, with all of these clashes presented.
The speaker has spoken for 4 minutes and 19 seconds. We thank the speaker previous. Now we call on the Deputy Prime Minister of the government.
before I proceed to my argument, first, the leader of opposition said that the people in the presidential system, the people, the parliamentary system, the people cannot actually vote directly the prime minister. But then we answered, these people in parliamentary system, these people votes this legislative or a legislator or the House of Commons, which these legislators are the one who chooses the prime minister for their country. So even though they are not directly voting, they are indirectly voting the prime minister, because the one they choose to choose this prime minister is chosen by these citizens or these people. Another one, you said that we take away the opportunity of the government to do better. This presidential system is already we are actually practicing this government for decades now. So if your argument is for this government to do better, why didn't they do that before? Why didn't they do that before, if that is your argument? Now, let me proceed to my, why do we want to change the system of government from presidential to parliamentary? First is because, yes, we consider the idea that the status quo is actually doing a good job. But then we need this change for efficient and fast movement of the decision-making policy. I will prove that to you in terms of my argument. My first argument is the capacity to prevent this parliamentary system has the capacity to prevent gridlock. What do you mean by gridlock? This gridlock is a situation in which no progress can be made. What is the reason for this gridlock in our government system? Because there's an unending squabbling. There's an ending quarrel between the legislator and the presidential. Why is that? Because if the legislator pass a certain law, then the president can use his or her veto to that law, and then the legislator will again vote to override this veto. You see that there is an unending quarrel between this legislator and the executive. Now, why is it better for parliament? In conclusion, let me say, the parliamentary system is superior to presidential system in terms of avoiding deadlocks and promote better cooperation in policy making. Why is that? Because the prime minister is the head of the there is an ability of the parliamentary government to muster a majority in the legislature and command support and cooperation from it. Because the prime minister is first of the equal. It means that this prime minister actually belongs from this legislator before he or she become prime minister. And because of this, there is actually a musteration of there is actually a unity between the executive and the legislature. Now, for this, my second argument is the capacity to promote and have a disciplined parties. Why do we need these parties Why do we need these parties? Because these parties is for stable democracies. Political parties are the viable. When you say viable, it means it is a workable and meaningful channels that closely links the state and the society. So these parties are, for example, are the voice of the people. So, in the status quo, what do we have as party today? What dominates the country is a system of loose, fractious, clientelistic, or personalistic parties. The member of the legislature are actually not on the same party. That's why they have this quarreling. Quarreling. But on the parliamentary system, the parties in parliament tend to be stable, efficient, and decisive because of this intra-party unity. Because most of them are in one. Most of them are in one party in general. And because of this, we are very proud to propose.
The speaker spoke for 4 minutes and 50 seconds. We thank the speaker previous. Now we call on the Deputy Leader of the Opposition.
To my members, the opposition side and to the government side, to the adjudicators and to the members of this noble assembly, Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh, and a pleasant afternoon to each and every one. Before I start, or before I open my case, I would like to rebut what the other side had said. Yes, the legislation allows to be passed more swiftly, but always remember, Mr. Adjudicator, yes, always remember that the presidential system can respond more rapidly in emerging situations. It's because the legislature are being scrutinized by the presidential system, and in the presidential system they don't scrutinize the legislator that they have. Another thing is, how can they assure that the next in-line leaders, or the one that they appointed for the next prime minister is that much good in doing the duty as a prime minister of our nation? It's because they don't value the vote of the people. Another thing is that, yes, the gridlock. But always remember, ladies and gentlemen, that gridlock is more dangerous. If gridlock is more dangerous in parliamentary, it's because the best of minds, and it may cause the conflict. Everybody have different in the parliamentary system. Everybody have a different mindset. So what is in their mind is the one that they need to do. So what if it will overlap to the other representative? So it will cause a lot of problem, Mr. Adjudicator. So I think that answers the questions. Another thing is, like, there's a lot of advantages that is present in the presidential system. Like, for example, is the direct elections. In presidential system, the president is often elected directly by the people. So it means that they value more the ideas of people. They value more what is right and what is wrong. So for example, if they're going to appoint someone that is so good, the people are the one who knows that. It's because they are the one who feels the system. Like, for example, is let me say that I'm going to appoint Nonoy Aquino as a president again. I know that I can appoint him. It's because he does his duty that much, and I know that he did that one because of the projects that he did. So in parliamentary system, Mr. Adjudicator and ladies and gentlemen, they are not sure. I mean, people don't have allowed to vote. I mean, they have a power to vote, but the power is diminished or will be lessened than the presidential system. Another one is the separation power. The fact that the presidential system separates the executive from legislature is sometimes held as an advantage. Why? Because in that each branch may scrutinize, ladies and gentlemen, again, scrutinize the actions of the other. Critics respond that if a presidential system legislator is controlled by the president's party, the same situation exists. That's why presidential is much more advantageous than the other one. Another one is the speed and the decisiveness. Same supporters of presidential system claim that presidential system can respond more rapidly to emerging situations, just what I said, than parliamentary system. A prime minister, when taking an action or when taking a section, he doesn't need to retain the support of the legislator, but the presidential system is often less constrained. So they are not that worried about what they're going to do, is because they have the cabinet members that will help them and will scrutinize the things that the other people says. The other one is the stability. The proponents of the presidential system, ladies and gentlemen and adjudicators, also argue that stability extends to the cabinets chosen under the system, compared to parliamentary system where cabinet must be drawn from within the legislative branch. So I think with all the things that I said, I believe that presidential system is very much advantageous to the other one because of, they said the gridlock. I agree that gridlock can be harmful with our system, but I believe that it is more harmful than them because of the best of minds that they have. Yes, I am the best one here, and I can do this one. So what if they interlock? That's the problem. That's the main question. So I think I rest the case, and thank you very much.
The speaker spoke for 4 minutes and 50 seconds. We thank the Deputy Leader of the Opposition. Now we call on the whip of the government.
Assalamualaikum and good evening to each and everyone, to the members of this noble assembly, to Mr. and Madam Chairs. Now, before I begin to summarize our case, let me clarify the statements that have been given. Now, when you change presidential to parliamentary, the head of the parliamentary is actually the legislators. The legislators which were elected by the people. So therefore, the legislators represent the people. So in this case, the people will have the right to speak up of what they think, and not only what the president have taught. Now, first, they asked us how can we assure that the prime minister of this chosen parliamentary system is good. So the purpose here is that the people chose that prime minister of that legislator. So it's the people who elected. Therefore that they will look up. Now the power of the legislator is that if the president does or the prime minister doesn't do good, then the legislator has the power to terminate the president or the prime minister. So if the president or the prime minister does not do good, then they have the power to terminate. Now, one more thing is that they said that in parliamentary, they will value the people's idea more. And what do we want? We want to be heard. We want them to hear us, to know what we think. So if you think that what people's ideas are not valuable, then why are you here? Why are you even here respecting the president or the prime minister? So one more thing is that they said that speed and decisiveness. So when conflicts come, they said that the president has the urgency to solve that problem with the speed that they have. Now, Mr. Chair, if the president in the presidential form immediately solves the problem without the legislators' consent or without further ado, since he has the power, then wouldn't that be more? Yes, it was fast. It was really fast that they made a solution, but still, that solution wasn't right to the people. The people's thoughts weren't given to that certain. So they said that why don't we just do better? So what we're doing right now is we're making it better by changing presidential to parliamentary. Because in parliamentary we have the right to speak up. We could share our thoughts, and the disadvantage that have been said by our prime minister is that in presidential,
Speaker POI.
No, the president in presidential. Yeah, so in parliamentary, if the president is not firm or the prime minister is not firm, the legislative has the power to terminate that president. Or let's just say that the legislative represents the people. So if the people does not agree to what the president is doing, they could consult him and they could question, and eventually they could terminate. So we agreed to changing the system of the government in the Philippines from presidential to parliamentary so that we people could speak up, so that at least we know that we belong, and that and we cannot question whatever their decision will be because we were part of it. Thank you.
The government whip spoke for 3 minutes and 45 seconds. In 3 POIs raised, none taken. We encourage both teams to please take at least 1 point of POI. Okay. Now we call on the whip of the opposition. You will be timed the moment you speak. You have 5 minutes to rebut the case of the government.
Okay, have a rainy afternoon, everyone. So this House believes that from presidential to parliamentary should not be imposed. First, one of the speakers of the government said that there is a unity of prime and the legislators. Then, how about the people that must be focused on by the prime minister, since the legislators have the authority to vote the prime? Where is the voice of the citizens? And one of the speakers said that the elections come from the legislators who are elected by people, by Filipino citizens. And we know that the election for prime minister will reduce the number of votes. But where is the large number? Which is larger number? The legislators or the Filipino citizens? Prime minister, voting for the position of prime minister caters from 5 to 10% votes only. Then, unlike presidential system, that 100% from the citizens and from the Congress and the Senate and the judge have been decided for the choosing the right president or the leader that will lead this country. The prime minister, one of the speakers in the government side, especially the prime minister, stated that people must have the right to choose their leaders. Meaning, you are referring to the democracy upon which the citizens have the right to vote the leaders and not the votes of the cabinet. Many parliamentary systems still have monarchical ties, and many still contain significant autocratic privilege. And Prime Minister must be aware of re-election, because a single mistake of him will have the decision of the legislators to re-elect another prime minister. And one of the disadvantages that in parliamentary system is that only the cabinet members can have the authority to choose who is the prime minister to be led for that particular country, especially here in Philippines. We people or citizens or Filipino citizens cannot choose the right leader, for the election evolves only with the cabinet officers, right? It is really, really right that the election for prime minister only evolves in the legislative, in the legislators, within the legislators, and as what I have said a while ago, that prime minister must be aware with re-election. Therefore, this House firmly stands that parliamentary is not needed in the Constitution of the Philippines.
Thank you, Opposition Whip. Now we request both houses to both the teams to please cross the House. Congratulations again to both teams.